should you read it?
Calvin and Hobbes. It's really interesting. I've never read it before.
How is it possible that you haven't read Calvin and Hobbes before? I mean, they were my favorite comic when I was a kid.
Plus, they're a great tool for rhetoricians.
Please don't tell me we're going to do another theoretical, metaphysical discussion thing.
Come on, those are always so much fun. Anyways, my point was that the cartoonist here uses multimodality, the combination of text and image, to create a powerful message to influence readers.
Okay, hold up. Now you actually are going to drag us into this theoretical discussion thingy. I mean, you can't just make a statement like that without expecting us to unpack it a little bit.
Hey, but wait. Let me say something first. You're saying that multimodality is the best form of rhetoric, blah, 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 right?
Something like that.
Okay, but what constitutes multimodality is that it's text and image. Text and image are two different modes, is what you're saying.
Right.
But text is image.
I think what Sadie means is text as a picture.
But I don't think that's
No.
necessarily...
I know what you're thinking, and I'm already way ahead of you. You are going to argue that text is a picture, an image. And the thing about images is that they're all really icons. I mean, they're separated into different categories. You have pictures, which are icons that resemble that which they represent. And then you have text, which doesn't resemble what it represents in any way at all. But the difference is that text has a very fixed meaning. It doesn't change. You can argue about what the word love means, but you know that the letters L-O-V-E always make up the word love.
Sure, whatever, that makes sense. But when we're talking about the multimodality, and in this case the text and the images, is that really the most effective rhetoric? I mean, I think pictures do a pretty good job on their own.
Really? I think pictures are good at illustrating the text. That's why the multimodality thing works, because images add some sort of nuances of meaning to the text, but on their own, I don't think they contribute that much.
But when you're thinking about text, you have to have previous knowledge in order to understand the words. With a picture, you just receive the information visually, so you don't have to have extra information besides that to understand it. Why do you think that pictures are so much easier to understand? Pictures are easier because they get an emotion going in us. We have experiences that allow us to make sense of the images and relate it to our experiences. Our experiences are tied to our emotions, so if a picture tugs at your memory of those experiences, then that gets your emotions going too that go with those experiences.
Yeah, and emotion is super important in rhetoric.
True, to an extent, because pathos or emotion is a technique used in argumentation. But a good argument will rely mostly on logos, which is logic, and ethos, which is credibility.
Except that underlying emotion is values, and people don't argue through rational thought, they argue with values.
Exactly. Some things just go beyond the scope of reason, and those things are usually our values.
Have you ever read Jonathan Swift's A Modest Proposal?
I have. It's so morbid. I mean, who would ever think of proposing the murder of masses of children to stave off a famine in a country?
But throughout the essay, his argument does sound kind of reasonable though, doesn't it?
Yes.
So why didn't you buy it?
Seriously? Murder is wrong.
According to your values.
But could you somehow justify it?
Did you really just go there?
See, you said earlier that argument relies heavily on ethos, and I agree with that. But ethos is also determined by our values. When somebody tries to present information to us, we automatically try to find credibility in that person. And we're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but we totally do. When somebody starts presenting to us, we start checking that against our values. But if we can start off right away with shared values, then it'd be way easier to identify with that person. And if we can identify with them, then we'd be way more willing to listen to what they have to say and possibly be more open to being persuaded by them.
So basically what you two are telling me is that as humans, we are more valuing creatures than reasoning creatures.
Yep.
That goes back to what I was saying earlier about how emotion is the doorway to persuasion.
Going back to that, images relate to emotion because We have to bring our past experiences in to even understand them in the first place. It's like our lives are a collection of stories or narratives that we change a little bit every time we think about them. We value meaning and purpose, and through images we can come to understand those meanings and purposes.
When you're telling stuff to people, you have to make it personal too. I mean, if it's not important to them, then they're just not going to pay attention.
People also don't want to be meaningless spectators in other people's stories. They want to be a part of the action, and what better way to immerse themselves in the story than to be an actual part of it?
That's why pictures are so powerful, really, though, because you have to involve yourself with your own experiences in order for it to work. So, in a way, when people are viewing pictures, they really are co-writing part of the story.
Yeah, the best kind of persuasion is when people don't realize you're persuading them. They'll more readily accept your idea if they think they are the ones to have come up with it.
Now you're picking up what we're laying down.
But what if people misinterpret something? I mean, wouldn't that defeat your whole purpose as a writer? You wouldn't even know what you persuaded them of.
But you're forgetting, though, that images can imply a lot of things, too, based on the techniques that you use in them. For instance, if you have a close-up of an image, that draws the viewer in a lot because of the closeness. But in the same way, if you have a picture of a person looking directly out of the viewer, that also draws the viewer in. And they both remind us of real-life conversations that we have with people because of the closeness.
There's a lot of things that you can imply using images that you wouldn't be able to get away with just using speech or text either. Think about commercials. They can imply that someone can become very rich and powerful or have a great sex life, but if someone were to just tell someone that these products would be able to do that, they'd shy away from it thinking that's not true.
Hey, can I see that comic book real quick? Yeah, here's an example of what I was talking about. Look at this comic. How would you interpret it?
Calvin was probably watching something that he shouldn't have been watching.
Right. This comic could be used to illustrate the negative effects that current TV has on kids, that television content should be censored more, whatever. The list goes on. Those topics are heatedly debated, but a simple picture like this could bypass some of the consequences of saying it in words. Again, part of the reason you'd be persuaded of this is because you're more involved in interpreting the picture and writing the story behind it.
Okay, you made a good point, but rhetoricians have a hard time nonetheless being able to control how people interpret a picture. I mean, fine, maybe it can imply certain messages, but text still constrains meaning in a way that image can't. I mean, how can you use image to make causal claims or analogies or contrasts? You just can't. Here, let me see if I can find something. Okay, here's a good example of a causal claim. How could you make that understood without using words?
Oh.
Haha, point for text.
I think we're getting away from Sadie's original point here, that multimodality is one of the most powerful forms of rhetoric. I mean, we've already discussed pictures and text and the sort of issues that exist with both, but through multimodality, the slack between them can be picked up. Let me show you what I mean here. The pictures and text complement each other, even though in this instance the text probably has a higher priority towards the meaning of the message. I mean, you can read the text and understand it, right?
Yes.
But look how the pictures add to the text. It constrains the meaning even more.
Hey, I want to see that now. This would sort of be like what you just said, Lucas, except the roles of the image and the text are flip-flopped. The images are maybe the primary story. You can still get a kick out of the pictures alone. But the text also adds to the hilarity of the story and refines your interpretation of it even more.
So the main point of this discussion is that not all meanings can be experienced in all modes in the exact same way. Meaning is created in mode-specific articulations. The more nuances you construct and invite others to interpret, the more easily you can bring them into being a part of the message and persuade them.
Yeah, so thanks, Sadie. Mind blown.
Yeah, Great. Now I'll be scarred for life when I read Calvin and